Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be revisiting a subject. You see, a bunch of leaks happened last year, very early into last year, which have consistently been proven true. As you are aware, there was some sort of marketing event happening in China, and apparently everything just kind of went out there. Actually, I think the leak was maybe more than a year ago, actually, because it's been something that we've been revisiting every now and then. Now, one thing which is quite important is, surprisingly, everything was correct for what eventually became Tides of Torment. It surprised even me because, well, I wasn't really expecting the sea elementals to come in, despite the fact that they look very different to their RPG counterpart, and the Praeton really threw me off, as that is still a Beastmen unit. I mean, it's okay because the Beastmen can use it, but it just didn't really fit with the theme of Sinesh. And I've seen some theories that Creative Assembly did that leak intentionally just so they could drum up some hype, and I doubt it. They're very skittish about these things. In fact, they've only really started pushing out like Nagash and the Tigermen, because the Tigermen are supposed to be quite close, I'm imagining, considering they said, what, spring? And Nagash, well, they had to have something for the 25th anniversary, which was going to be substantial. Medfree was not going to be enough, considering that they really did fuck all with it. And, well, 40k was supposed to be on the 25th anniversary, but got pushed into the Game Awards for one reason or another. I get it, big promotion, it's just how it is. I just don't agree with the Game Awards. Man was promoting Highguard really, really hard for some reason, who knows. So here we are with a bunch of stuff already confirmed, and obviously this isn't the last stuff, but it does make me wonder a few things, obviously. One, security at CA is incredibly lax, which is kind of disappointing, really. Not only just like for the sake of this, because at the end of the day, this was all pretty hype-worthy, and if everything still proves true, because remember, Creative Assembly can just like change plans around, although some other stuff has already been confirmed, it's going to be a bit of an issue when it comes to 40k. I think that's something that does need to be, touched upon a little bit. Warhammer has a lot of 40k leakers, and no disrespect to them. At the end of the day, it's something that just happens, and, well, Games Workshop haven't cracked down on it. Who knows, right? But it is kind of frustrating. I like being surprised. Yeah, but even during like the early access periods, when we get told stuff pretty early, that's a big surprise. If we know what's coming beforehand, or at least very close to it, it just kind of takes away the magic a little bit. This is not the first time something's leaked for CA, and I doubt it's going to be the last, but I do hope that it gets a bit less each time. I mean, at some point it was even playtesters too, which was just kind of frustrating, because you guys might remember unit cards leaking for what ended up being the Beastmen DLC in Warhammer 2, and that one's actually quite funny, because I thought those were fake, and people asked me on stream, I was like, no, they look like fake because the unit cards look like crap, and lo and behold, they were the real unit cards. Weird. Obviously, the End Times DLC was announced, which is something that everyone was kind of expecting anyway. So, End Times, the world's going to blow up again. It says 5 faction pack, but Creative Assembly in their blogs have been kind of weird there, where they've said 5, then 4, then 5 again. So, we don't know exactly what's going to happen here, right? Because as far as we should be aware, it should be like Nagash, 4 of the Lords, and then Neferata. They are testing gameplay changes, for example, releasing the Great Vortex. I mean, we've already seen some stuff. They've shown it off on videos. So it's clear, it's very, very clear that this stuff is just kind of falling true here, right? Again, just kind of leading to confirming the leaks. I would have actually waited. Honestly, for me, I wouldn't have announced the DLC yet for the End Times. I would have gone for something else. And that way, just kind of throws off the leaks and eventually just doing the End Times. But Creative Assembly probably want that really big thing. Depends on how it goes, because they say that there's a lot more stuff to come for Warhammer 3. They said that in their interview, that many years of support to come, which, look, I'll be very honest with you, I don't believe, like, at all. Because, like, if you're going to do the End Times, it's going to be last, right? Or it's going to be close to last. It depends, but we're going to have to wait and see. I've been bitten before, right? It's the whole Three Kingdoms thing where it's like, oh yeah, the Northern Lords. Well, I think they did confirm Korea at some point too. And something to like Western China. But yeah, nothing. Obviously the leak mentions other factions for the End Times, so Skaven with Vanquil, Empire with Midland, Grand Cathay, and Chaos. So Skaven, Midland, and Chaos, I can expect, because the Glotkin and Nurgle really are missing a bunch of stuff. Putrid Blight Kings and so on. It just kind of makes sense. It's the last End Times Chaos faction, and at that point, Chaos is practically done, barring like little bits here and there that could form the basis of character packs that we'll talk about a little bit later. When it comes to Skaven, again, very big hitter during the end times. You can't have the end times without Thankful, you can't have it without the Vermin Lords, and obviously if they're going to be doing events and stuff like blowing up the moon, yeah, Skaven. It just makes a lot of sense. Empire, Midland, it's another thing that's really important. I did see a little bit of pushback from people going, well, if this leak is true, it's going to be a bit lame. But no, one, the Empire is missing like a lot of stuff from the 6th edition Midland army, which would form the basis of a full-on DLC at that point. And two, like in general, Middenheim is where the last Chaos Gate is, or right below it at least, or well, really to the side. You can't have the end times without Boris Todbringer and his specific location, because the end of the world literally happens there when Manfred does Manfred things. This is why a lot of people hate Manfred. The cafe thing is very interesting, because obviously we do know that there is a brand new DLC coming before that with Bathsheba and the Tigermen. I still think that cafe might get another DLC. Creative Assembly and Games Workshop are likely going to hit cafe very hard, you know, to hit that China market, which makes a lot of sense. And not only that, but it's an open book, right? There's so much that can be done. We know that they're missing 3 dragon children and obviously the Monkey King, which I could imagine they'll do the Monkey King for the end times as, oh, you know, the Monkey King is very mischievous, but he's jumped in now to help with the problems and try to stop the end times. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe Cafe has been removed and they're just going to do Bashiva, but I do really think that they could just do it again. Some people might say that's a bit too much Cafe coming in at once, but I mean, look, we're getting like a DLC and a half every year. It's not a lot, right? And not only that, but at this point, I'm just happy to have anything. Especially as it seems like CA are slowing down with what's going to be included in patches, so we're not really going to be getting a lot of reworks and stuff like that, which is pretty disappointing because they were doing really well. But I guess they're pulling at multiple threads and they're starting to feel the strain. Surprise, surprise. Like, seriously, not even a surprise at this point. Whatever happens, happens. Most important thing for me, at least, is the Blight Kings, because I don't like the new ones that Age of Sigmar have done. I miss the old ones because they're just cooler, man. I don't know why the mutations have been missing. Age of Sigmar is going for a really weird design phase again. Super, super weird. And then there's the final section there for the roadmap. So it's like only 1 to 2 DLCs are left between Sinesh DLC and the End Times DLC. I mean, that's kind of proven already. 1 DLC, but Shiva and the Tigermen. So that's something there. Beastmen will have 1 more DLC for Moonclaw. That's something that I could expect. Obviously, the character pack system works out quite well. I would prefer Gorus. In fact, I spoke about that very recently. I'm a big fan of Centaurs, and I feel like we don't really have a lot of Centaur representation in terms of Lords and Heroes, which is something that could be done now. There will be a DLC for Monkey King and his own faction. Again, I expect that just to be a thing. I don't expect Monkey King to have his own separated race, unless it's a hell of a lot of Monkey Warriors, which I very much doubt, but we'll have to wait and see. And there is some possibility for a Tomb Kings DLC. So we already know that Tomb Kings are going to be featured in the Nagash DLC because they're going to be getting some stuff given over to Nagash, right? The Heralds, which is something that I've been personally hoping for a long time, and I'm really, really happy about. And the Big Beetle's finally going to get proper representation other than just artwork and kit bashes. Lovely kit bashes at that. Every time I show it up, the person who actually made that kit bash shows up on the comments. And it's always a joy because like it looks really fucking good, man. Now, the main thing here is talking about, like, even with that being introduced, and maybe even some more units, it does depend, there's still enough Tomb King stuff for a character pack, hell, even possibly for a full-on DLC. So all of these, I could imagine, could be true. I do think that the Monkey King is still part of the End Times, unless that was the original part, and then it isn't, or Bashiva was. It's such a weird concept, so we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, it follows the 1v1 format, but it's 5 or possibly 4, again, time will tell. With regards to Moonclaw and stuff, barring the fact that I'm just not too keen on Moonclaw myself, I mean, character packs, right? Like, there's probably a lot more plans. Remember, Neferata was originally part of the character pack in December, and then they decided in January that it wasn't going to be the case, well, February. So plans are always evolving, and that's, I think, something that's really, really important to talk about with CA. So even though, like, yeah, most of this has been proven true so far, some stuff can change, the stuff that's very out there, which, I mean, could lead to an extended lifespan for the game. We're just going to have to wait and see, which is one of the annoying aspects here, because you never really know. I've done, like, a list of, like, possible character packs, and there could be 20, even more. It does depend on what they want to do and what gets approved by Games Workshop. Remember, that's always a factor there. And this, for all we know, this offline interview thing that happened in China, in Shanghai, could have just been like our hopes type of thing, right? Because it's always a thing. Creative Assembly have changed plans so much that we know of in previous games that you never really know what is actually going to be there. These future DLC plans could have all just been like, this is what we want to do, not necessarily what we're going to do. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video is actually because of the Dogs of War, because you can see there's a mention there of Dogs of War has likely been killed just because of the inclusion of Bjorg Bearstruck, which I don't understand why Bjorg being included means no Dogs of War. We've seen DLCs affect other DLCs in the past. Hell, the last few DLCs have been basically boosting up the Beastmen, so I think that's a pretty weird thing. Now, Dogs of War assets and stuff have always kind of existed since like Warhammer 1. And I thought that they were going to be there for Warhammer 2. In fact, I really do think that they had plans to do Dogs of War for Warhammer 2, but then decided to move on to Warhammer 3 for some reason, which is a massive shame. I guess like the popularity of Warhammer 2 that was surging during COVID made them push onto Warhammer 3, which is disappointing because you know how that ended up. I mean, it's better now, but like the launch of Warhammer 3 was atrocious, so I think they could have bought some time with a Dogs of War DLC, that's for sure. Now, recently, there's been some data mine stuff where, like, stuff has been changed around, so it does look like that was going to happen, and there was a leak. Well, it wasn't even a leak, that was just left in the game files for Creative Assembly, where Borgio the Besieger and Lucrezia Belladonna were found there, like a lord and a legendary hero, respectively, which is cool. Those are very big-name characters from the Dogs of War book, and everyone really likes them. Borgio the Besieger being like a siege expert, Lucrezia being just basically a black widow, killing every single husband so she can further into power. I genuinely believe that Creative Assembly had Dogs of War in mind since before Warhammer 1 officially launched, because they wanted to do every army book, and Dogs of War are so popular. I know some people in the Total War sphere are like, oh, what's so popular about them? It's mostly human. I get that, but believe me, tabletop, everyone just awes and wows at a Dogs of War army, because they're so incredibly rare. So that stuff is big hype. Pikemen, Perfect Crossbowmen, all the usual stuff there. I do think that they've probably got assets and they're like still trying to see what they can do with it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a race pack with one legendary lord and one legendary hero, just for the sake of that, with then a bunch of mercenary mechanics being introduced, which now with Bashiva being mentioned to be mercenaries, I wouldn't be surprised once again. I think it would be a massive shame if they decided not to do the Dogs of War for whatever reason. Like, a lot of people say it's like, oh, they're winding down, and then it's when they do that, it's when plans start falling through, which, yeah, I guess does happen. I think that they could still do a lot of DLC, despite the fact that Warscape is a pretty awful engine. There's a lot of stuff that could still be done for this, whilst they're also still working on Warhammer 3 and also on Med 3 and, I don't know, Total War Hyenas at this point, right? Because they are working on other titles. It's very sure that they're working on other titles because, I mean, there's speculation going around that some of the stuff that they showed for the breakable terrain was for the hypothetical Total War World War 1. CA do this. They work on way too many projects and they get overwhelmed. But we have had periods where there was like a 1.5 year sweet spot where we were just getting DLC for 3 different games at once. And in all fairness, it was fucking fantastic. We were getting so much content in one go that everyone was spoiled for choice. Even though Troy wasn't that popular, it was Troy, Three Kingdoms, and also Warhammer 2. Mercenary mechanics have always existed in Warhammer Fantasy, and it's something that they could easily do because they've got the framework. They've literally got the framework with Total War Troy, because obviously Memnon had that weird recruitment mechanic from different areas, and I think that could easily just be ported over and introduced for every faction to have access to, with some limitations, of course, because obviously High Elves won't join up with the Chaos Warriors and stuff. But if they could do that with limitations, it would be absolutely amazing, and I think that it could just add that feel of, oh yeah, we're bringing some Dogs of War armies with us, or just getting a few units here and there to support, where you've got limitations on how much you can bring, kind of like what happens with the Warriors of Chaos and the Demons of Chaos. Obviously, you are limited there, and it would allow for just a lot more to just feel like Warhammer Fantasy, and allow for more people to experiment with their armies a lot more, rather than just doom stacking. I mean, doom stacking is still going to be a thing, but you know what I mean. And obviously we do have to talk about the last bit, some leaks that did come out last year through Legend of Total War. I mean, the moment I saw these, it's like, yeah, this is probably true. Because at the end of the day, one, I've never seen a reason for Legend to lie in any way, shape, or form, because no, he's a pretty honest dude. Yeah, I get he can be angry at times and stuff, but hey, I can be too. And to be honest, like, yeah, Legend's never really seen a reason to lie. The stuff here, like, really falls in line with CA's like concept work for like the claw speaker. I think it's actually like close to identical. Um, Same thing with Bashiva, I guess. Well, we saw a rendering of Bashiva, right? Instead, there's like two other named characters there, Toyan or Taoyan. I'm probably like butchering that. I'm really sorry. And then Mung the Brutal, and then a Tiger Sawai or something. I'm not sure. It's a very small image. Well, lo and behold, we got the announcement of a Tigermen DLC, so that kind of makes sense. And likely the legendary lord is that Taoyan or Taoyan person, because they say it's anti-large. He's got like a big rake spear thing that kind of works as anti-large. I imagining that Mung the Brutal might be a different lord for like Cathayan ogres, because we do know that Cathayan ogres are a thing, and well, we've got like the loaders on the tabletop, so we've got a Tigerman DLC, a character pack, and then likely a ogre DLC coming in the future. I mean, it's exciting nonetheless. I do think that this was all planned to be one DLC, because that's what like a lot of the speculation was falling around, which, you know, would have been Tigermen and that Lords of Shangyang, because that's been kind of mentioned there. I think Legend called it that, and then, you know, has been mentioned that in the blog. So, I mean, you know, Cafe and Ogres would be great, because it'll at least give something for Zhao Ming. You know, we know that he's got a lot of stuff with ogres, but you're mostly working on the ogre mercenaries, and that's a pretty awful system right now. Again, why we need Dogs of War to bring in a mercenary mechanic. I think the most exciting thing for me is not much Total War. It's hoping that all these things that do get shown off in Total War end up as miniatures on the tabletop, which so far, with minor changes, obviously, they do have different changes in the models to the actual game. But it would be great to see them. I'm dying. I am absolutely dying for the Celestial Lion to be a tabletop miniature, because it is so freaking pretty. I'd love to paint one. I'm curious about the Taeyeon character, because if they're likely going to be a legendary hero, which, I mean, is kind of expected unless Mung is going to be that one. Yeah, I wonder what they'd be able to do. Probably boost up peasants and stuff would be kind of cool. They seem to be looking at legendary heroes that boost up the trash stacks, which ultimately does help. Stirkar being able to boost up Marauders makes them really viable. It's nice to have with an army. If you like boost Stirkar and then Dakala together, like you get your Marauders acting like Chosen, which is hilarious, but in a good way. In a good way. It's a cheap and effective army. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that today, because obviously I've been getting messages. It's like, oh, what are your thoughts on this? Literally, I've just been too busy, honestly. I've been painting up some stuff. I've been obviously reading over the brand new Cubicle 7 book, which there's likely going to be another video on it at some point, because it is a really good book, actually. I came in with like, oh, cool, Dark Elf lore. And then I was like, oh, wow, a lot of Dark Elf Sinesh lore. I'm really surprised. Honestly, it feels like it was written with me in mind. God bless Cubicle 7. Absolutely fantastic writers. I love talking to them. They are so lovely. We're getting a lot of Warhammer stuff from pretty much every medium lately, which is absolutely amazing. With like Total War, we're getting stuff from like the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay stuff and loads of stuff for the Old World. I'm about to finish up a lot of Cathayan stuff, which they'll be painting videos, because I'm actually quite excited, and you guys seem to respond quite well to it. So I'm pretty content. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a lovely weekend. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye.